What's up, guys? I'm the MMA Casual, and today I'm going over a really touchy subject that I've always loved talking about, but I do receive a lot of hate.
Hey, I'm not surprised, mother.
Called a hater and several other things, and a casual, of course. But in reality, what I'm asking you in this video is to just hear me out, listen to my points, really absorb what I'm saying before you even comment. Call me a hater, call me a casual. I do call myself the MMA Casual, but today we're talking about Conor McGregor. And in reality, what I'm trying to get across is that he is not a top 10 UFC fighter ever. And we're talking about in the octagon. We're talking about his legacy. I'm not talking about what he's done for the sport or the attention he's drawn to the sport. This is purely his legacy, his career choices, his fights, who he has fought in the past, and his switch from MMA to boxing for that brief period, his very short prime, his championships, his title defenses. And basically the point of this video is to bring light as to why he is not what everybody really wants him to be and what really hurt his legacy. So before we get started, be sure to subscribe, guys. I'm the MMA Casual, and be sure to hate on me. It is what it is. I'm glad to answer all comments and kind of go back and forth because it's something that I truly believe is the reality. So I'm gonna start off by saying Conor McGregor, definitely I was a huge fan. Still, I'm a huge fan. I'm not a hater. I don't dislike him as a fighter or a person. I understand what he does. I understand what he has done for the sport and how he has to kind of be a stunt sometimes and fill this persona for views and popularity and for money, of course, right? That's what drives the UFC. It's kind of become more entertainment in the Conor McGregor side of things and press conferences. So starting off, I did want to mention 2015. I think this is his blow up year. He had a lot of success prior. He beat guys like Dustin Poirier, Max Holloway in the featherweight division. He was climbing the ranks quickly, and of course his ability to speak, his charisma and his persona is what really got him a lot of popularity in the UFC. So his first big fight I'm going to mention is what gets him into an interim belt fight, which is against Dennis Siver. I'm going to put his picture up. Many of you might not even know who he is. Decent fighter, a lot of experience when he was going to fight Conor McGregor, and Conor McGregor handled him. I believe it was a TKO in the second round. And now we jump into the fight with Chad Mendes. Chad Mendes, of course, being a UFC legend, a smaller guy, a wrestler. And again, this is in the featherweight division. Conor McGregor this is the first time he's really challenged. Why? Because Chad Mendes is a wrestler, an elite wrestler, and he came in on, I believe it was 10 days notice or 2 weeks notice, and he gave Conor McGregor a good fight. In reality, it looked more like Chad Mendes gassed out rather than Conor McGregor really capitalizing on anything. It was the fact that he went for a bad submission attempt late in the second round. When he got up, he was gassed, and then Conor McGregor came in and he just finished him with a beautiful TKO. At this point, we realized that Conor McGregor did have a weakness, and it was his ground game. He really did beat Chad Mendes. He became the interim champion at the time for the featherweight division. So we move on from that. Later that year, at the end of the year, he faces off for the featherweight title, and that's against, of course, Jose Aldo. Now, this is what really just shoots Conor McGregor into superstardom and being the real deal when he becomes featherweight champion. And we all know how that went. First round, I believe it was 13 seconds, a quick knockout finish. It was a beautiful performance for the short time that it was. It was a beautiful left hook, and at the end of the day, Jose Aldo had been dominant for a decade. There was nobody who had handled Jose Aldo up to this point. So now we got this guy with this popularity, this charisma. He's coming up the ranks. He takes out Chad Mendes, and now he becomes champion, and in an incredible fashion by knocking out Jose Aldo, someone who we all had very high regards for and respects for. So now Conor McGregor at this point in 2015 is the featherweight champion. Now here is where I have my first issue. That is the last time we see Conor McGregor fighting in the featherweight division. Personal choices. He probably couldn't make the weight cut anymore. There was so much more out there for him, more money to be made, different avenues to take. That's fine. But at this point, when you become a champion, and for most guys, this is where your legacy begins. This is what makes you dominant. This is what makes you a legend. When we talk about someone like John Jones, when we talk about someone like GSP, this is almost the start of your story, right? So he has this great featherweight run, and now he's a featherweight champion. So we move on. 2016. At this point, this is the first huge decision that is made that I feel is questionable when we talk about his legacy. Now you're going to go fight Nate Diaz in the welterweight division. This makes no sense. You're jumping 2 classes and you're fighting someone who's not really a contender. The reason he's fighting Nate Diaz is because Nate Diaz is a big name in the UFC. At this point, he's been in the UFC for probably over a decade, I believe, at that time already. A lot of popularity in the sense of the Diaz brothers. There's money to be made. They saw that as a money fight, and it was it was a great success as far as financially. But now we left the featherweight division. We leave our championship status to go fight welterweight against Nate Diaz, someone who in reality, when we're talking about the best of all time, Nate Diaz isn't anywhere in that realm. Nate Diaz isn't a top 100 fighter. And quote me on that. So what are we doing here? Okay, financial risk, financial gain here. And he goes into that fight and he actually gets submitted, which is a huge hit because now you went from being the bee's knees, the new guy in town, taking over. Nobody has an answer to you. Now you hopped over 2 weight classes and a guy who shouldn't be finishing you, someone who's not really a contender for the belt, is finishing you. That's a problem. So what do we do later that year? We fight Nate Diaz again. This time it's an all-out war. I think everybody loves that fight. It is a classic. And we now have 2 welterweight fights under our belt. And we're moving further and further from ever defending a belt. Okay? Now we go. We see how popular he is. And of course, from beating Jose Aldo to after the second fight with Nate Diaz, the popularity has tripled. I mean, McGregor has gone from a huge household name and he's the most popular guy to the UFC, where now he's world renowned and he's the biggest thing in combat sports. So now Dana White sees an opportunity. He says, okay, let's give him a shot at the lightweight belt, 155 pounds. So what happens here is he goes and fights Eddie Alvarez. Eddie Alvarez at the time was kind of untouchable. And I got to give it to McGregor. McGregor gives us a masterclass performance, just fantastic striking. And I mean, we all have to give credit where credit is due. And I'm not hating on McGregor. He has holes in his game, but his striking, I mean, he's one of the most elite strikers we've ever seen, especially in the divisions he's fought. Let's be clear. So he fights Eddie Alvarez. It's a masterclass performance. I think his best performance yet. And he becomes a double champ. So now we really have a staple on Conor McGregor. So now you took over the featherweight division. You take out a guy who was dominant for a decade. You left that behind. Now you become a double champ in the lightweight division where, and this is where that Dana White privilege and that popularity privilege comes in, he fought in a division he had never fought before. Which again, after that, we've seen other double champs do that. And, you know, it's almost become a norm to us. But at the time, it's like, this guy's getting a title shot in my division. Why? Okay, so we have the double champ. And now, instead of going and starting to defend the belt, now we have a real opportunity to make money. We have a chance to make $100 million in boxing with Mayweather, which again, no business in doing that, but you cannot hate on that decision because Conor McGregor, I mean, that's what filled his pocket and his wallet. I mean, he took care of his family for generations with that fight. So he goes to fight Mayweather. I'm not going to touch upon that, but that's also in 2016. That's in 2017. And he makes his money. But now it's time to come back to the UFC. And we're not coming back as a featherweight. We're going to come back at the lightweight division. Now we have Khabib Nurmagomedov, and we're potentially putting on the biggest UFC fight of all time. This is a war between 2 countries. Conor McGregor versus Khabib Nurmagomedov. Khabib being the actual champion. Conor McGregor coming in with nothing up to this point where he has his double champ status and 0 title defenses. He fights Khabib Nurmagomedov. In my eyes, I really do think that Conor McGregor put a masterclass performance against Khabib Nurmagomedov. He came up short. He got submitted. The promotion was beautiful. The success was beautiful. I have the poster right behind me. I mean, it's one of the best build-ups to a fight there ever is, right? Conor McGregor delivered that. The best press conferences. There's so much gold in here, and that's in 2018. But he lost. So now we have a guy who's become a double champ. He's a champ in the featherweight division. Never defended the belt. He became a champ in the lightweight division, 155, beat Eddie Alvarez. And he had to vacate the belt because he's not defending. So up to this point, he's become a champ twice, different divisions, and never defended a belt. And now we go on and we take a 2019 year to rest. And now I believe Proper 12 comes into the mix. And now we have Donald Cerrone versus Conor McGregor. We got the Cowboy versus McGregor. This is going to happen in 2020, and this is a welterweight fight. So now we're jumping back to 170, where we initially fought Nate Diaz, where we're 1-1 in that division. To be honest, I don't think it's a bad comeback fight, but yes, it doesn't hold a staple in his career because Cowboy was on a huge decline. And I'm not saying that he's a real gatekeeper, but a lot of people would feel that Cowboy's a gatekeeper with a lot of experience, and he started declining, and it was a great fight. I mean, our first round TKO, so Conor's back. That's that's our image. Conor is back. 2020. Oh man, we're gonna get a second run at the belts. Is he gonna fight welterweight? Is he going back to lightweight? What's he gonna do? So anyway, that's another money fight, and I don't think it grows too great, but it was to get him back and get him on the win column, because up to that point, he had lost to Khabib, he beat Eddie, he had lost to Nate Diaz, so we have a mix of wins and losses, and he lost to Mayweather as well. So now, 2021, we get the real, I believe, the real decline and the real descent of his legacy in a sense. Because now we're going to go back into the lightweight division, right? Somewhere he's more comfortable, somewhere where he can make a weight cut. He's going back to lightweight and he's fighting Dustin Poirier. He fights Dustin Poirier and he loses. Mind you, he had beat Dustin Poirier years before. That was one of his first fights in the UFC. But now he got TKO'd. So now we've seen Conor get submitted twice. We've seen him go into wars. But now we saw him get knocked out technically. You know, a technical knockout. So he did get knocked out. It was a TKO. So that's something nobody had ever seen to Dustin Poirier at the lightweight division. So now when you look back, Conor now up to this time has 3 lightweight fights. He's fought Eddie Alvarez, he's fought Khabib Nurmagomedov, and he's fought Dustin Poirier. He's been a champion in the lightweight division because he beat Eddie Alvarez, but he's only won 1 out of 3 fights. So you got a guy who could claim to be a lightweight champion, but only has 1 win in the division, and it was to become champ. More to that privilege. So then in that same year, 2021, he fights Dustin Poirier again. And this time it's a TKO. It's still TKO, but it was that leg kick injury, that injury we've seen time and time again. But it's a TKO. So now 1 year he's lost twice to the same guy in the same division. And up to this point, he now has 4 lightweight fights and only 1 win, yet he's been a champion there, and he never even defended the belt. And I hope you see where I'm coming from. Even though he was doing this, you know, for popularity, for money, this, that, or the other, you got to understand that this does hurt his legacy. You have a guy who was a lightweight champion with 1 lightweight win. That's Dana White privilege. And yeah, he put a masterclass performance, but he's at a 25% win rate in that division. It makes no sense. And then we go back to featherweight. He's never fought again in the featherweight division after taking off Jose Aldo, where that's somewhere where he should have started. That's where his career and his legacy really started. So 0-for-2 there. And now we're waiting for Conor to come back. And you know, he had to come back for his injury. It's 2023 now. You know, he's definitely been on the sauce. He's been promoting Proper 12. He's been in some movies. But now my issue with Conor McGregor, and I understand if you're a Conor McGregor fan and you're going to defend him to the end. He started his family. I think he has a 4th baby on the way. Congrats to him. He's living his life. Good for him. My issue now is this I'm retiring, I'm not retiring, I'm coming back, I'm not coming back. And now it's almost like he's cringy because he's calling out everyone and their mother. He just finished the Ultimate Fighter with Michael Chandler. He's supposed to fight Michael Chandler, but he hasn't been in the USADA testing pool. And then you have like just this cringy stuff where it's like he's almost just needs attention on Twitter. Gaethje wins BMF and he calls him out. He's been saying that him and Diaz are going for the trilogy. He called out KSI this past weekend to do that gimmicky boxing. I'm sure he'll end up fighting Jake Paul at one point. When Mike Perry fought Luke Rockhold in BKFC, or it was Chad Mendes and Eddie Alvarez, one of those 2 pay-per-views, I think it was the same one actually. He hops into the octagon and like holds the BKFC belt. Great for BKFC because you're getting popularity. You have Conor McGregor, the most popular combat sports athlete, standing with your belt in the middle of the ring, but what does it do? Like, what are we doing here? And there's pictures, and it's like, oh, is it going to do bare knuckle? Of course, Conor McGregor's not going to fight bare knuckle. And he's like calling out Mike Perry. And then, you know, like it's just this consistent nonsense. And then he even calls out Poirier and says like, oh, I'll beat you because technically we're 1-1. He's not counting their 3rd fight. So it's just like this Conor McGregor, I feel, is like that dad who's living through his high schooler in sports. And it's like, it's over. It's been over. You know, you decided to venture off during your prime and were taking fights you shouldn't have taken. And even though he grossed a lot of money and he was very successful and there was a lot of masterclass things, the reality is you cannot put Conor McGregor in the top 10 as far as his career. You cannot put him in the top 10 as far as skill. When you look at his wins to losses, it's not impressive. You have a guy who was a double champ, but let's be honest, he never had any title defenses. He got a freebie in the lightweight division. So when you look at his success early on, it's almost like he was a very successful featherweight, but why so? Can we call him a weight bully? Do we look back and do we say he was kind of a weight bully? Or is it skill? You tell me and let me know in the comments. I hope that if you're commenting below and you're letting me hear it and you're sharing this video, you understand my points, and I hope that I was able to deliver them properly. This is no hate on Conor McGregor. He's a legend to the sport. He's done a lot for the sport. Definitely one of the most talented strikers we've ever seen. However, you can't say he's the GOAT. You can't put him in your top 10. It just makes absolutely no sense. Although he was the first double champ, that's really all we get from Conor McGregor. Let me know what you think and subscribe for more.